tonight. If you can first, please state your name, job position, and your employer.
Cynthia Harris. I'm the rehousing coordinator for Housing for New Hope.
Okay. Can you define the government's definition of homeless and then what you would define as homeless?
Okay. According to HUD, you are homeless if you're living in a shelter or in transitional housing. Transitional housing is like sort of like a group home, not quite like a group home, but it's a place where families stay for just a short period of time. Or if you're living on the streets, maybe like in a park, living in your car, living in an abandoned building, a place that's not meant for human occupancy. That is considered homelessness. Or if you're living in a hotel and the hotel fees are being paid by a church or by a nonprofit agency like Department of Social Services, you're considered homeless. But if you have to pay for it yourself, you're not considered homeless. I don't understand that, but that's what they say. Now, my definition of homelessness is, to me, anyone that does not have a place to stay, people that are living in shelters and things, of course they're homeless. If they're living on the street, of course they're homeless. But I also feel like people who are couch surfing, living with this person this night and maybe this family member that night, I think they should be considered homeless as well. I also feel like if a person is staying in a hotel and they can provide you with proof that they're staying in a hotel and that they're paying for it themselves, I think they should be considered homeless as well, because obviously nobody wants to stay in a hotel unless you just have to. So they would come out much more affordable if they could get housing in an apartment rather than a hotel. That's what I think the definition of homelessness should be.
Okay. What made you want to work for Housing for New Hope?
Well, when I started in the homeless community 21 years ago, I was doing an internship at the Genesis Home, and I later worked for the Genesis Home. And we partnered a lot with the Urban Ministry Shelter. And at the Urban Ministry Shelter, their director was named Terry Allenbaugh, who was a director at Housing for New Hope when I first started. So I knew a little bit about Terry, and I knew a little bit about the work he's done in the Durham community. When I saw the ad, I knew that ad was screaming my name. I said, I think I can do this, and I want to do this. So everything I heard about Terry and knew about him and Housing for New Hope had been positive. And it seemed to be like a growing company. And I like what they did towards the homeless. So I wanted to be a part of that.
Okay. What role do you play in helping the homeless community?
I feel like I play so many more roles. I'm the rehousing coordinator, so I have to oversee the program, and it's one of the biggest programs. I think it is the biggest program that Housing for New Hope has. We get funding from HUD, we get funding from the city of Durham, and we get lots of other little funders that help us out. But my role is to oversee it. I have to work with the grant writing part of it. I have to do the budgeting part. I have staff that work up under me. I actually manage the expenses for the monthly reports. Part of my job is I do case management just like my case managers do case management. I have a caseload that I have to follow up on as well. I like to do budgeting. I teach ready-to-rent classes. I have to develop the paperwork, develop the forms. I have to do the audits. I do the landlord recruitment, and that's very, very important that we have a lot of landlords that would be willing to work with the clients that we put in housing. That's the main part of my job, and it's so much more. I feel like that I do a whole lot more than what I'm required to do, because I feel like a lot of people in the community really know me, and they call me for all different things, and I'm in the habit of trying to help others. I don't try to turn anybody down, even when people apply to get assistance for our program. This program is here to help, not to turn anyone down. And if I feel like I can't help them, I try to give them some resources to go somewhere else for help.
Okay. Do you feel this is what you are called to do?
No doubt. I feel like I was. My mother was a missionary as I was growing up. And often when we were little, she would always have people come over to the house. They may be homeless. They were not doing as well as we were, and we were poor, but they weren't doing as well as we were. But sometimes she'd bring them over. She'd let them spend the night. She'd feed them. Sometimes me and my sister and brothers, we'd get angry because that meant somebody was sleeping in our bed, and we often said, we're not going to sleep in it again. But little do I know, years later, as I became a young lady, that I would end up doing this type of work. And as my mother was on her deathbed one day, and I was home taking care of her, I was trying to take care of her, but yet I was trying to do work for the homeless with my laptop. And I looked over at my mom, and she was laying there sick as she was, and she was smiling. And I said, Mama, why are you smiling? And she said, because you're doing the same thing I did, but you get paid for it, and I didn't. And that's when it dawned on me that, yes, I am more than a case manager. I'm a missionary, too, and I really love what I do.
That's good. Is this something that you personally see yourself doing for the rest of your life?
Yes. I have tried to get out of doing this. I really have. I had a job that was paying me big time money, and I loved the money. It was paying the bills. It's way more than I make now. And I thought I would be on that job forever because I like that job too. But when you get into the social work world and you really are into it and you're pretty good at it, you can't get out of it. Because my clients knew exactly where I worked at, and they followed me there. And they would call me, and I would find myself working for one company, but yet on the phone with DSS trying to get funding for this person that wasn't even a client of mine. And I had nothing to do with social work that I was doing on my job that I got paid big money for. So then I realized, Cynthia, you got to stop. You cannot be working for this company and doing this on their time. So, yes, I was cut out for this.
What would you say has been the most challenging task or experience that you've had while working for Housing for New Hope?
Oh, my God. The most challenging task. Well, I would say when you really, the thing is, like my boss told me years ago, you can't save everybody. And I really want to save everybody, but there's some people, no matter what you do, you cannot save them. There's some people that say they want to come out of homelessness, but they are not willing to make the efforts to come out of homelessness. They're not willing to accept the responsibilities that go into having your own place. So that's the most challenging when I have people who are not ready for housing.
Okay. With that being said, what motivates you to continue pushing and advocating for the homeless community?
Because I feel like everybody deserves a home. And I'm very much into children. It really, really breaks my heart if I see a child without a home. If I see teenagers and I know of a teenager that don't have a home, it tears me all to pieces because I start thinking about what's going on in school. How are they learning? How are they eating? And kids don't normally like school, but if you're homeless, you like school because you know you're going to get breakfast there, you know you're going to get lunch there, you're going to have a safe, warm place to be that day, and then when school is over, where do you go? So I feel like everybody deserves a home.
From the time served working here and just observing and going out to the community, going out to the community, what would you say touches you the most about these families?
I guess it's the stories, what may have led to them that caused them being homeless. I think that's what touches me the most about them. And overall, they really want to do better. And they want to try, but sometimes it works and then sometimes it don't. But I think that's the main thing that touches me, just hearing their stories and looking at their background and seeing if they can overcome.
So if someone came up to you today and asked, Miss Cynthia, what would you change and what would you like to see? What would your answer be?
Are you saying what would I change about
What
this?
type of change would you like to see, and how do I say this? Personally, what change would you like to see when it has to do with the community?
I would like to see there be more money in prevention so that you can prevent people from being homeless. And be honest with you, I would like to see we have money for people that are literally homeless, but we don't have money to prevent it. I would love to see us get a grant where we can do homeless prevention and do the other piece when people become homeless. Because we have people right now that I'm working with that are at risk of losing housing. So if I'm not able to continue assisting them financially, then they've got to go back to DSS. Sometimes they don't qualify for that stuff. So I would like to see homeless prevention money become more available, especially to Housing for New Hope. I would like to see the area medium income scale change, because right now it is so low that you have to make that if you make a little bit too much money, you can't get help. Sometimes I've had people years ago that wanted to get in a program and they may have made $1 or $2 too much. I would like to see that change. Yes. So I would like to see some of those income guidelines change as well.
Okay, well, that was my last question. And I want
Okay.
to thank you for your time and providing me insight on Housing for New Hope and information on the homeless community.
Great, great.
Thank you.
And I thank you for being our intern and let you know that we have truly enjoyed you. And I do expect to see you again in the homeless community, because sometimes when you get into it, you can't get out.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. I got into it as an intern and I have not been able to get out. So thank you, North Carolina Central University, for placing me into that internship and starting me on my way.
Right.
Take care.
Thank you.